Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Today's episode is episode 1 of season 3, Smith and Jones. It's a Judoon platoon on the moon, and an all-new companion. This episode is written by Russell T. Davis, directed by Charles Palmer. It originally aired on the 31st of March 2007, and it was seen by 8.7 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Frank.
Hi, this is Kelsey.
Hello, this is Auburn.
This is Josh.
This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Brian.
Martha Jones is walking down a London street when the doctor walks up to her, removes his tie, and says, "Like so. See?" He then walks off, leaving a bewildered Martha to continue walking to Royal Hope Hospital, where she is studying to be a doctor. Her instructor, Mr. Stoker, is taking the students on their rounds. Their first patient is Miss Florence Finnegan, who hasn't been eating properly and has a salt deficiency. The second patient they visit is Mr. John Smith, who we recognize as the doctor. Martha is instructed to examine him and tells him that it was not a good idea to run around outside, but the doctor doesn't know what she's talking about. He has been in bed since yesterday. Martha notices that he has 2 heartbeats, and the doctor winks at her. Mr. Stoker picks up the patient's chart and receives an electric shock. Many students, including Martha, state that they have been shocked a lot this morning.
Interesting how there's no cold opening. You go straight into the credits.
And Russell did that on purpose to start us fresh.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He said, I decided to do no cold open.
Is it mentioned why he went to the hospital to begin with?
He picked up some strange readings.
He did.
And he takes it like, I wasn't trying to get involved in anything. I was just curious. And then all this happens. So.
And then, we're going to get to it in a minute, so it's not a spoiler, but I recognize the actress who's playing the old woman, and then I'm like, what do I know her from? And as the episode went, I'm like, oh, I know her from this episode.
And what episode was the Impossible Planet theme for? The
Impossible Planet. This episode. Just kidding.
I like how we kind of, not only is there no cold opening, but we kind of jump right into Martha. You know, she's walking along the street all by herself, but we're instantly thrown into the middle of her family chaos, and it really appears that Martha's role in her family is to be the glue.
Yeah.
Is to be the one that everybody talks to solve the problems.
It's a really great start with exposition. It shows you, because I made a note about just the sign of the times with the call waiting, the cell phones are now part of everyday life, whereas it seemed like not a gimmick or a luxury. Now it's just the way people communicate, and just what you said, the way Martha is with her family, and then also the vibe of this new season.
Yeah, on our last podcast episode, I compared the episode Rose to the episode The Runaway Bride. So Rose's first episode versus this first episode, which is Martha's first episode. And they both start off very similar. We're following Rose throughout her day as she goes to work, as she has lunch with her boyfriend. And here we're following Martha on her way to work as she's talking to her family.
It's not, but this feels almost like that. When we started with Rose, we got a quick little montage of Rose's typical day. This isn't a montage, but it's almost like a compressed...
A microcosm of
yeah,
her life.
Yeah.
It's a verbal montage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned the parallels, because the working title for this episode was entitled Martha, paralleling Rose for Rose.
Russell gets a lot of criticism for repeating and for kind of doing the same thing over and over again. But with very few exceptions, I kind of view it as a strength, because he's taking the same ideas, maybe the same themes, but he's approaching it from different angles and different characters. So it never really too much bothers me.
I see it more as like motifs, like certain directors have certain tricks they have in their bags, and he's a writer, he's not a director, so this is what he's using.
I don't see it as a criticism like he's running out of ideas.
I
think he has so many ideas in his head that sometimes he's putting them down in kind of a familiar pattern to best tell that story. And that's how I see it.
And economically tell it.
Yeah.
I think, too, in the days of binge watching, you see it more.
Yes.
True.
You're fresh off something, whereas in the past, it was so much longer in between things, you don't really notice it.
There were a few things between this episode and the Christmas special even that I felt like weren't exactly the same, but they were definitely very similar Like the whole the family opening, and then having this kind of other woman that each of our main character women, like it was Nerys in the Christmas special, and in this it's Annalise. Like they're not exactly the same, but there are similarities that keep happening during this
And they're
episode.
both sort of this blonde.
Yeah.
We're also introduced to Martha's theme, which is used a lot. And it's an interesting choice.
Coincidence that it's named that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it's because it's such a slow, haunting theme. I like it, but I do always wonder why they picked that for Martha. You know, and I think for me, it's like, does it also kind of have a feeling of longing to reach your goal, kind of a thing? Just throwing that out there.
I had it more cerebral. I mean, she's very observant. She noticed the motorcycle delivery people around, because
Right.
they bumped into her. But then later on, she sees the other one and just keeps watching them because something's odd going on.
She's
So I think
very
she's observant and she's logic and deduces things. So I think it's a little bit more of that.
she's a very mature companion compared to everyone else. But also,
Even though she still is, I am a
Compared to
student.
Rose or compared to everyone else?
I'm kind of thinking ahead a little bit too. She's
Definitely
kind
Rose,
of on
and
her own
even-
2 feet more. Like Rose grew into her maturity.
Martha doesn't seem to be
No.
wanting to escape her life, even though we see her family, and I want to escape her family. She seems to be okay with it. This is a family problem, and we'll get through it, and that's fine. And, I'm going to be a doctor. She has a plan. She has a goal. She's a little more rooted in her life. So she doesn't seem to be wanting to get away from anything. So that's very different from Rose.
Also, the music might be an indicator. I'll just hint at it, like what her arc is with the doctor a little bit.
Could
Oh,
be.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very odd to see the doctor out of time because she's dealing with him and he comes up to her,
Right.
not knowing who she is, what's going on, takes his tie off. Look, see, this is it. And then she goes on rounds and he has no idea what she's talking about.
That's right, yeah.
So it's kind of, what is the doctor playing with her or is this something coming up? It really
Yeah.
gives you a kind
Right,
of,
right.
I don't understand what's happening.
And I like how they didn't clue us into like him winking at the camera, even like, oh, he knows what she's talking about. He's in my mind, he's probably thinking, oh, that sounds like something I would probably do tomorrow. That happened today.
Oh, I think the look was, that's odd.
Yeah, because they didn't want to tip us off.
And here we also get the second appearance of Howard's PJs.
Seriously?
Oh,
They're
that's
the same
right.
pajamas?
They said that in the commentary.
That's
Oh,
funny.
wow. That's funny.
And then tell us who Howard is for the listeners who can't
From
remember.
the Christmas Invasion, he's the.
Does it still have fruit inside?
He mentions a banana later.
It's not a banana.
Jackie's neighbor or Jackie's boyfriend?
Jackie's boyfriend,
Yeah,
I guess at the time of the Christmas Invasion episode, they
Right.
had pajamas. When Eccleston regenerated into Tennant, they needed pajamas for Tennant while he recuperated.
They haven't done it very often in the modern show. I think they kind of did this more in the classic show, but I like the Doctor's reference to Ben Franklin and how he was with Ben Franklin.
My mate.
Yeah, he was there when the day that they flew the
kite.
The kite.
Oh, I'm sure it was
rope
the
burns.
doctor's idea or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that.
And I like that
Yes.
they just kind of throw those fun little history things in.
They had to prevent the Flanubians from
Yeah.
ordering the...
I'm kind of going to channel Eugene for a moment, but I noticed in the production design of this episode, this hospital is very blue.
yeah. Well, they
Fighters-
make hospitals blue, actually.
Yes, I know that they make hospitals, but if you were a production designer, it's like, what was I want to know what the reason behind the blue was, because it's everything. I mean, it's not just, it's the curtain dividers, the plastic clips on the patient's charts
Oh, yeah.
are blue. The robes, there are signs in blue. The
gotta
walls
be.
are painted blue. Even the bulletin board. The bulletin board is a dark blue with white papers pinned to it. There's blue everywhere.
Maybe it was in contrast with the aliens that show up.
Possibly. But I mean, this is one of those things, I don't notice things like that, and I noticed it in this episode, and I blame Eugene.
All right, I was the production designer. Sorry.
It was also during this conversation, it was kind of thrown away, but Martha asks if he had a brother, and he says, not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, for the classic...
This is
no,
the first mention of
first
him having a
mention
brother.
ever? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
the-
classic show never mentioned of his family beyond...
Susan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Susan was his granddaughter, but he never talked about his family.
Every now and then they'll pepper that in, though, even from here on.
Yep.
Things like that, and then you just...
He said it before. In
The empty
and
child.
He'll even say it again.
I was a father.
I was a father, but I'm not anymore. You know, I think they're really trying to build a continuity in the modern show because that's what modern audiences expect. Whereas in the classic show,
It was like fly by the seat of your pants.
you know, there was no binge watching, there was no videotapes,
Right, yeah.
So it was just kind of if you caught a repeat, great.
What the heck's a rerun?
Yeah, exactly.
Now we can watch Doctor Who while we eat.
He's got 2 TVs. Nobody has 2 TVs.
Get used to those bars, kid. It begins to rain, but Martha's sister Tish tells her on the phone that it is only over the hospital. Then the rain begins to fall up, and suddenly, in a flash of bright light, the hospital is transported to the moon. People in the hospital begin to panic, and Martha tells the patients to return to their beds. She is amazed that they are on the moon and is about to open a window when her friend shouts not to, because it will let the air out. Martha tells her that the windows aren't airtight, so if the air was going to leave the room, it would have blown out the windows already. The doctor is impressed by Martha's deduction, and together they go outside onto a patio to look at the moon's surface. Martha finds it beautiful, even though she is scared. She knows it is extraterrestrial because of the evidence of the last 2 years. The doctor throws a stone which hits a force field that's keeping the air around the hospital. They realize that they need to find out what is going on before the air runs out. Suddenly, flying over the hospital, a trio of alien spacecraft land and an army of Judoon warriors, a rhinoceros-looking race, march into the hospital.
I like that this is our first appearance of the blue suit and the red sneakers. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody else.
I noticed.
This is my favorite costume of the Doctor's, so just want to point that out. Season 3 is where it happens.
And I'm surprised it's season 3.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems so late, but no, it's season 3. I love the red shoes.
What you were saying about Martha earlier, though, Frank, she's the first one very quickly to realize they're on the moon. Not that it's a big stretch visually, but if you're someone who's not used to space travel and things like that, just some doctor, and all of a sudden something like that happens, and she's immediately like, we're on the moon, that's what's happening.
Well, it's because everybody else in the hospital is again giving a lesson in non-subtle acting.
Right.
The freaking out is
Really over the top.
really, yeah. There were some interesting choices made by those extras.
They wanted to be featured.
And boy, yeah.
They look like the silhouettes of the clown in Dumbo. The clowns talking
Nice
to
pull.
themselves in the tent.
In their defense, most times on sets, extras aren't given the whole picture. Like they're just told,
Sure.
be scared, act like you're in fear of your life.
But the
You
one
know,
guy is turning, clutching at the arm of the guy next to him with this look on his. I mean, it's a little over the top. And you're right. I'm not necessarily blaming them. It was either their direction or the lack of direction that they were given. It was also the producers and the editors' choice to leave the shot in.
Yeah.
But still,
I think this episode is definitely geared towards the younger audience in the way that
yeah.
the menacing messengers are there with their helmets pulled so that you know they're bad. The whole writing, the feel of it seems for a younger audience. So I think they would like it a lot better than the adults. And Martha, I thought was really interesting. Yes, she has this wonder of being on the moon and all this. But when she asks the doctor questions, it's not in awe. It's not in wonder. It's in, I need information. It's like, how is this possible? She actually wants the information rather than other ones would be, wow, how is this even possible?
And he's
not
picking
really
up
looking
on
for
it.
an answer, but doing it more rhetorically. And she goes, no, give me an answer. Going back to the cerebral. When I ask you a question, it is a real question. I need to know the answer to this.
And he's picking up on that very quickly. Like he's watching her assessment of everything.
Oh, Martha is impressing the doctor right from the start. He likes her a lot. I did like, there's that one comment of Martha when she's on the phone while the rain is going. And, as someone from Southern California, I look out and see greenery at Christmas time and don't even think that's weird. This one where she says on the phone, why is everyone fussing about the rain? And I want to say to her, you're not from Southern California, are you? When it rains, everyone goes crazy.
It might as well be rating up.
Exactly. We probably wouldn't notice the difference.
I also got a kick out of when everything started to happen at the classic camera shake
With the
of the
ships?
hospital.
Yeah.
No, when they're in
the
the
hospital,
hospital,
okay.
like everyone moves around. The
Oh, the Star Trek.
grips are throwing
Enterprise Hospital?
props. Yeah, the
Star
Enterprise
Trek, yeah.
Hospital.
All right, everybody act. This is a 7 on the scale of 1 to 10 of shake.
Go to the left. All right.
The Judoon, that's a practical mask, right?
Yes.
It's a real, I thought that was really well
pretty
detailed
good.
and done well.
I have my picadillos of like it being a rhinoceros.
If you go into the how
Right.
would they have evolved like this, I'm gonna hurt you.
No,
They're cute.
I know, it's fine.
Oh man.
I also like that Martha won't call him the doctor. You have to earn it.
Right.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Because she's struggling to
Yeah.
get there and get that
Yeah.
doctorate.
She's also the first character to use mild profanity. We're on the bloody moon
Bloody is a big deal. Not so much anymore, but
back then.
Yeah, I also really like that moment on the balcony where Martha and taking in that we're on the moon, and she mentions it's really beautiful. We could die at any moment, but still, she's appreciating the beauty of it, and it reminded me of in the last episode, The Runaway Bride, when the doctor says to Donna about traveling with him, because she's like, doesn't want to travel with him because it's dangerous, and he says, but it can be beautiful though, and then she counters with and terrible. So here's someone who is basically
almost
saying
reverse.
the same thing, but
Almost,
instead of running away from the terrifying aspect of it, is embracing it because it's still beautiful.
Yes.
And so the doctor would take note of that and be like, oh, because that's
Accepting
how
both
I feel.
aspects of it.
Yes.
It's not just
yeah.
Because
having
I
to be one
think
or the other.
that's how the doctor feels
Mm-hmm.
too.
She's more of a glass half full, and Donna was more of a glass half empty.
possibly, but I see that she sees it all. So it's not blinded either way. And I think when you go for the half full or half empty, a lot of times you only see it that one way. The glass is either, oh great, half full, everything's wonderful. It's she sees both. It's half a glass. It could be both full and empty. She sees the dichotomy of
Well,
it.
both Martha and Donna see the full picture, but they're reacting to it differently.
Yeah, we all have different filters based on our experiences. I also really like that she says, Mr. Smith will get out of this. Rose would be like relying on the doctor to get her out of this when she first meets him, right? And then, at the end, she does save the doctor herself. But Martha's attitude is, this is my hospital. This is where I
I'll
work.
take
This
care
is,
of you.
yes, I am here to take care of patients in the hospital. Mr. Smith, you're one of the patients. So she is in a role of authority, and she takes it very seriously. So it's like she's
She does that a little-
reassuring the doctor.
She does that a little earlier with get all the patients back to their beds.
Yes.
Get everything back in order.
Take charge.
It's like right now we still have power, we still have air. Let's figure out what's going on, but get everybody back in some kind of order.
Another thing that's
It does have that.
really impressing the doctor. And, he's also immediately rejects her other doctor intern.
She'll hold us up.
He's already he assesses the two of them really fast. Martha, good. This other one won't be a help.
But back to that balcony scene. This is when Martha mentions her cousin Adiola,
That's a great line.
who we first saw in Army of Ghosts. So that explains why you see Freema Agyeman playing two different characters.
I actually didn't recognize her the first time watching this through. I think it was Eugene who was like, did you recognize her? And I'm like, no. Should I have?
It's great that they mentioned that because people that are watching it not for the first time will see that, hey, that's the same person. Is she the same character? And then they explain it away. It's
Yeah,
her
no,
cousin.
it's good that they explained it.
I recognized her, but I didn't catch that when I saw it originally.
And they were going to have the same character if they knew she
If
was
they
going to
knew, yeah.
hire Freema
Yeah.
for this.
But
Yeah,
then
Freema was
They
hired
would
as
have
a
kept,
one-off.
they would have kept her alive in that
Yes.
episode.
He
But-
said, if he had known that they were going to hire her as the companion, he would have made Addie live in Army of Ghosts. She would not have died.
she would not have
That
done,
would
yeah.
have even been more confusing.
They would have rewritten
No,
it
but
so...
it wouldn't have ended up being Martha. It would have ended up being
Addie.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now that
Yes.
makes sense.
And her family, probably would have had the same mother, the same brother, but it just would have been Addie as the companion instead.
Not only does it retcon something, but it also gives us character because she's thinking outside of the box, being like, it has to be aliens because of this other incident.
Yes.
Like the
She's
spaceship.
familiar with it.
Yeah, spaceship crashing into Big Ben.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Daleks, the Cybermen, and then
Yeah.
Complete opposite
Yeah.
of Donna.
Yes.
Who had
Complete
no
opposite
clue
of
of
Donna.
any of this.
Yeah.
So I like that it serves two purposes.
And there is also a precedent for a one-off actor being hired to become
Somebody else.
The sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, appeared in a fifth Doctor story in one of the serials. And then the fifth Doctor decided to leave the show at the end of the season, and they hired Colin Baker just to come back. But then it also happens with the fourth Doctor's Time Lady companion, Romana. She's one actress. She regenerates after her first season, and she actually regenerates specifically looking like a person they had just interacted with.
How does she regenerate? Was she a time?
She was Time Lady.
Time lady.
She was Gallifreyan.
Call it a time lady?
Yeah. Lords and ladies.
Lord lady.
All right. I know.
Okay, stop being New York. This is the UK. And the fourth Doctor at the time says, you can't do that. You can't look like somebody else. And she goes, why not? I like it. And
So
they wind
that
up doing
sets
that.
the stage for it to happen later.
Yes. No, they didn't plan it, but they did retro it to make it work. And also, it's kind of a Who tradition.
And I like that it's clever, not just shoehorned in.
Yes. I'm also glad that they still considered Freema,
Even
even
though,
after she was the one-off,
yeah.
because she's so good.
I'm curious if the actress who plays her sister, if she also auditioned for Martha, because she
could have.
She seemed like you could see them in the room together auditioning, you know, and all waiting together. And she, well, we'll make one of them, whoever doesn't get it, we'll make her the sister.
Kindly, old Miss Finnegan, followed by her 2 helmeted drones, enter Mr. Stoker's office and ask for his help. The drones hold him down while she takes a straw from her purse and begins to drink his blood. The Judoon begin to systematically catalog the humans in the hospital, searching for a non-human. When one person fights back, the Judoon find him guilty of assault and execute him in the name of justice. The doctor tells Martha that the Judoon are police for hire and that they have no jurisdiction on Earth. That is why they transported the hospital to the moon to conduct their search. The doctor checks the hospital computer for new patients, but the Judoon have wiped the records. While the doctor tries to restore them, Martha goes to find Mr. Stoker to see if he can help locate the alien.
The Judoon, before they took off their helmets, really reminded me of the Centaurans.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yes.
Especially with the
probe.
translator
Yeah.
port or
Yeah.
whatever on the front of his uniform was very similar to the
That's
Probic vent.
yes.
Yeah.
on
That's
the-
probably what they were
except the
going for.
reverse.
yeah.
It's on the front.
I'm sure that there was probably some crossover in costuming and
That is one of the criticisms. They said that Judoon looked too much like the Centauran.
But I kind of like that because you're expecting it.
Yeah, I would
And
kind
it's
of
like,
think,
oh, there's a whole nother race.
oh, I
here.
know
Wait a
who
minute,
this
what
is. You know, this is, oh, but they look a little tall, and they weren't really showing them very very well at first, and then they take the helmet off, and it's a surprise.
So the Centaurian are from.
The zoo.
Classic, and
Classic.
we will see them soon.
Yeah, because we haven't seen them yet.
We saw them on the classic.
Classic
Time
episode.
Doctor.
Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane's first episode. Yeah.
You're right. I was even.
Were you here for that?
No, she wasn't.
Eileen? That's why. You will soon be introduced to a race where you go, that looks like the Judoon.
Or potato heads.
Yeah.
I really like the use of the little mundane aspects where she's got a straw. It's a bendy straw,
I
and
love
it's
that
and
it's
it's
a
not
bendy
even
straw.
straight. Like
It's a killed by bendy straw.
and then the
Every
magic
kid's juice box is now a weapon.
and the magic marker making the squeaky noise.
It's like, and that always makes me laugh. Where it's like, because they put the magic marker in the device,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, that really, that's how high tech production is. It's just a magic marker, and they even put the squeak.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because they
it's
would
the same
shine
device,
it,
That's funny.
and then they would turn around and mark it. I thought that was very efficient and very practical, and I was like, good on them.
But the whole time I'm sitting there going, fine, I'm running around finding a Sharpie. And I'm just going to put a little X and go, you already checked me.
What?
But that's part of the whole. This is for more of a juvenile
I know.
audience on
I
this
know.
episode.
Everyone
Because
was
also the
too
device is
scared
so
to do
big.
it.
I don't even see it as a fault of the episode or a mistake or anything. It's just one of those. It's so Whovian, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I like it.
And it's just so big so they can hold it in their gloved hands.
Yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
make them so big. It reminds me a little bit of Disneyland with a feel for all the characters that you meet trying to sign all the books. Give them a larger pen to hold on to.
This is the beginning of. Oh, look, there's a little shop. I love a little shop. That will become a little motif of
Oh,
the 10th
really?
Doctor. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's
Well,
the
that goes
beginning.
back
It goes to New Earth.
New Earth.
Oh, it is. Oh, it starts in New Earth. Why
Yeah.
don't they have a
Yes.
little shop? And this hospital has
It's
a little shop.
It's the payoff to
That's
that.
funny.
But it will continue. Okay, so Stoker is he's the administrator of the hospital, but he's also leading them around on the rounds, and he's diagnosing these patients. I'm wondering why he's called Mr. Stoker the whole time.
I don't think he's the administrator. I thought he was
he's
just
he's
the doctor who
gotta-
trains the other doctors.
Yes.
But they don't call him doctor, so he's some kind of
That's what I'm.
consultant.
Yeah,
They said consultant, I
Really?
think.
it's just
That maybe it's a British
I
thing.
thought they.
But that's what we want to know as Americans.
Yes, as an
Somebody
American.
out there, please help us.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't they refer to him as a doctor since he's training the people to be doctors?
he is
Professor.
obviously a
But they all
doctor.
say Mister. They never call
Do they
him
say
doctor.
professor over there? They
No,
Nope.
it's always
they-
Mr.
Mr.
Stoker.
Right now, if there's any British people listening, they think we are such rubes.
Oh, they felt that for a long time.
Well, we do use our microwave.
And to watch people.
Stop.
Back to Mr. Stoker. I think it's a play on Bram Stoker because he eventually gets done in by a vampire.
Nice. I did think the sucking of the blood was very.
He kind of looks like
vampire-ish.
Nosferatu.
I didn't think of that.
And his nameplate is
Mr. B. Stoker.
Stoker.
Oh, well then,
They did it
yeah,
intentionally, yeah.
He was a downer.
He was. He didn't even seem all that weird. He seemed oddly calm about never seeing his family again. He
I
seemed
know.
more contemplative than upset.
He was British.
Yeah, I guess so.
Stiff upper lip. I mean, that line where he's like, I'm my daughter. I'm not going to see my daughter again. That hits me a lot. I mean, I really feel for him at that point. But you're right. He does say it in a very odd way. What gets me is it's like, he says, but I was going to retire to Florida. Nah, getting killed by a vampire is a better.
Getting killed by the vampire on the moon is a better way to go than in an old folks' home in Boca Raton.
So we've annoyed all our UK listeners and now our Floridians.
See, I think you're giving the writing on this one too much credit, too much in depth, because I think they are going for just the young one. So they're just writing some of these lines without really thinking about them. It's like we're getting this episode out. He says he's just saying something. Oh, it's too late to sign for anything.
Yeah, and that's what he was explaining to them. Like, it's too late to sign for something.
Meaning
like, we're on the
not
moon.
time-wise, but we're all dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got more.
I got that.
I got more of time-wise because he's just to me such a
It's past 6. Why would you possibly be delivering something now?
he's such a simple character. They don't give him a lot of depth.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, no, it's after hours kind of attitude to this line.
No, I'm on Frank's side here, especially production value wise and everything. After watching The Runaway Bride, this is very not up to that same level of writing, of effects, of like big epicness. So yeah, I agree with Frank that the whole thing is probably best not to try to look too deep into.
I wouldn't be surprised if that scene, writing-wise, originally happened before they went to the moon, and it just stuck in the script that way.
It's like this is a fresh, clean start, and then I guess that abruptness is something that I have a hard time accepting. We're going to a whole new place now, and I'm still bringing in all this other baggage from Rose and from Donna. It's like, no, let that down. Throw that out. This is a complete new start.
But I think,
we're
yeah, I think I understand. Nobody mentioned the blue lights, by the way, did we?
From the Judoon's
From the
scanner.
Judoons, yeah.
Those
Also a
look,
blue
those,
light.
those look more like ultraviolet lights, not blue this time.
Sorry.
It's what you
not
see
the
at
right blue.
at a concert when you get stamped.
That's
actually
exactly
the
it.
thing-
That's
there
exactly
you
it.
go.
See?
So I wonder, they should have done where the stamp doesn't show up, the X doesn't show up until you show the light on it.
But that's too much money. But that would make sense outside that. But this scanner is scanning something totally different. And
Martha sees Miss Finnegan drinking Mr. Stoker and runs out of his office.
This is a weird sentence.
That sounds really bad.
That tired old thing again. She runs into the doctor and tells him that she found the alien. They begin to run as the drones chase them. They barricade themselves in the radiation department as one of the drones begins to beat down the door. The doctor boosts the x-ray machine and aims it at the door as the drone breaks through. Martha activates the machine from behind the protective barrier and the radiation kills the slave drone.
This was like another part of watching this after watching Runaway Bride, where we have the same kind of setup where the pawn villains are coming after our heroes, and then the sonic screwdriver with another
the day.
device is able to kill them, which I mean is very different. Like
Rose as well.
the context and situations are very different, but in like the structure of the story, especially just after watching Runaway Bride, because I watched both of these very close together, it was like, oh, this again, like we have a device. Like this time it doesn't even make as much sense because at least the sonic screwdriver with the sound system, it was amplifying it, and this is just magic.
But it does destroy the sonic screwdriver, which
Thank
is...
goodness.
Yeah. I
that's
love my sonic
sad.
screwdriver. And then I love how he just like, Martha, doctor, and he's like, he throws it away. Yeah, all right, back to the problem.
It was also she finally called him doctor.
Yes.
So that's what I think made him snap into attention.
Talking a little bit earlier about the difference in tone, the scene of the assault and the execution of the guy doesn't fit in this episode.
Which guy? The Stoker?
Oh no, the
Swift Justice.
The Swift
guy.
Justice
Oh,
guy.
right.
So to have a guy who really is an innocent bystander, smash a thing
jar.
that causes no harm, no nothing, and then for us to see him a split second later get,
Vaporized.
justice executed in a fiery blast doesn't work in this episode, and I wish it wasn't there.
Yeah, but you need that threat that these people, that these alien can't be trifled with at all. Like that, because otherwise it's like, oh, once you check you're human, you're okay, you're safe, you're not going to die.
For the tone of this episode, though, that's what they were going for. In many, many other episodes, including, any season 2, season 1, that would be fine. They do kind of put it in to make the Judoon a threat, but if you're writing it for a kid, just the physical presence of the Judoon is enough of a threat.
See, like Doctor Who does this to me all the time. Innocent bystander, gone.
killing the one guy's really setting up visually that the Judoon have their own ethics, their own code, their own morals of what they're doing. And then later on, the doctor says that if the Judoon find that we're harboring this alien, they will kill everybody in the hospital and they'll feel justified about it.
It's probably a very hard thing to write because this show has a wide demographic. Because they'll write stuff that's heavy, and then but they still got it. So it's probably difficult to stay on track when you can. Oh, we should have this. Yeah, that'd be really cool. And then because we're allowed to, sort of forgetting that we're trying to establish a tone because there aren't those rules put on it.
I can see it being, rewritten many times.
Yeah.
And having the social commentary of, blind justice being in there would be good.
Yeah, for all
but
you
again,
know-
what they ended up with, I can see Brian's, for this episode, because I agree that it was more juvenile.
Yeah, for all you
So
know,
it doesn't need to be in there.
It
at that point,
could have
but-
originally been written much harsher and darker, and they said we gotta light this up because we're coming off the Christmas episode.
It's funny you mentioned that because it was. The visual effects
Look
were
at me.
much more graphic, and they toned it down.
Oh.
So there you go. They had to put a pass on it.
I don't know. It's just the idea that an alien race has a different form of ethics that the human race does, which then puts on that the doctor has different ethics too than the humanity, and that's what gives him the right to make the decisions that he makes.
I love the idea of the Judoon in general, where it's like, these are just policemen for hire. They have a code of ethics and they don't break their own code of ethics, which includes swift justice. That's great. It also kind of a little bit is like the Unquiet Dead. The Gilth want to use dead bodies to walk around in, and Rose thinks that's horrible, and the doctor says, what? It's just different. So the Judoon, it's just different. To me, it's jarring in this episode to see that. It doesn't serve the purpose because it just kind of goes away then. Nobody ever refers to the dead guy again.
No,
Right.
I completely agree with you. 100%.
I go 90%. The other 10% is still showing it to those kids or whatever who are watching, going, no, these are really swift, action-taking creatures who
Yeah.
will kill people
Yeah.
for small things. So
But I think that's also why going in depth into any small phrase or sentence in this episode, I think it might be interesting academically, but reading it too much into things, because this isn't trying to be that high level cerebral episode that we all love. And I think it's stuff like this that you don't read too much into any one thing that's happening.
Yeah, the purpose of this episode is just to introduce a new companion.
The Judoon scan Miss Finnegan, and because she assimilated human blood, she passes as human, and they mark her hand with an X.
Squeak, squeak.
It's like a microphone always having feedback. The doctor and Martha leave the radiation department and run into a Judoon, sans his platoon, who scans the doctor. They barely escape and make their way to Mr. Stoker's office. The doctor examines the bloodless body and realizes Miss Finnegan is a plasmavore. Before they leave, Martha takes the time to close Mr. Stoker's eyes. The Judoon burst into the hallway, and the doctor tells Martha she must stall them. When she asks how, he kisses her.
he kisses her? It's like, why not just give the air from his lungs like he did in his ninth Doctor, or lick her face or something? It's like he's leading her on at this point.
This doctor does like to lick things. Wood.
Exactly.
Like the wood paneling and tooth and claw and I can't remember
Yeah,
what
but
that
licking her face would have been a bit much.
Of course.
But I think it would have been funny. It would have brought you into this whole. She'd be like, "What?" And it wouldn't have been in that whole. I feel that this starts the dynamic of the Doctor leading on Martha.
Yeah, they're definitely planting the seeds now.
Yeah.
Boy, are we going to have conversations later. I love the physical comedy bit of the Doctor expelling the radiation.
Yeah.
You know, where he's like, they don't have time to rehearse these shows, so I wonder, was that just Tennant on the day? Just like, oh, my shoe, ow, it's my foot's asleep. And then Tennant goes through the rest of the episode barefoot. It's like, oh, that must have been great to read that in the script, where it's like, really?
I thought it was interesting. Martha's asking him, well, do you have a partner? How do you do this? And he immediately just gets defensive and putting it off, but he's really like trying not to mention Rose at all.
Yeah, you
It's
can
like,
tell he's
everything's
trying
going on, and this is what you're asking? And it's like, it wasn't a personal question. It was, do we have backup? Basically, is what she's asking. Are you traveling with someone else? So he's just taking it very defensively on that.
But it is a different emotional response from what we just saw
In Runaway Bride?
Runaway Bride. In Runaway Bride, it's a lot more raw,
Right.
and sad and emotional. And here, it's kind of like he's moved on to the next stage of grief. Maybe.
Denial.
Yeah. Or I just need to get past it. I don't want to think about it. He hasn't
So
accepted.
Avoidance.
He hasn't.
What's that?
Like, so denial.
That's true. But it is a different. I like how it is. He has moved on a little bit, but he's still not there.
And I think it's in this scene where, when they scan the Doctor, he grabs Martha's hand and here we go again, we're running, so is that very much
Echoing.
the whole grab Rose's hand and run. Judoon shoot at them as they're running, and I was going to write something down, so I paused, and I thought it was really great because it's a small little thing you would not get, but as they're shooting the lasers, they distort the wall behind it in the actual, special effects that they're doing, so it bends slightly to show, as you would through heat, something's been distorted.
And I think it's one of those things where you wouldn't notice it, but you would notice something's wrong if it was not there.
Because it goes by so quick, you don't get it at all when it's running normally.
Well, it was also when the Judoon scan the Doctor that Martha the skeptic finally believes him that he is not human.
Yeah, that's great.
I was wondering about the two hearts earlier when she was doing the stethoscope. When she just listened to his heartbeat and found two hearts.
Yeah, I think she knew at the time, or
That something's
she had a
weird,
feeling
but-
at the time.
But she's still a student, so she's probably thinking,
Right.
am I wrong? What am I doing? And then the guy reprimands her,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they just sort of move on.
And then they're on the moon, so that kind
Yeah,
of
and then
pushed
all of a
everything
sudden-
else out of there.
And it connects by the end of the episode. Like, she doesn't
She
have
remembers,
to
yeah.
figure it out. Right. But it's good to see her.
Because before then, it's like, oh, you're not an alien. She's not remembering that
'Cause she looks
couldn't
human.
hear the
And to
heart.
me,
Yeah.
after being Martha, all the questions that she asked and having her being an intelligent woman, that seemed like something she would have put together, especially when he said he was an alien when they're watching the Judoon check everybody and they're talking about the galactic law and who they are. And that's what I wanted, something there going, two heartbeats. Just to as a flashback to that going,
Little
she knew
callback.
something was weird. And then now that he's saying all this stuff and telling her that he's an alien, she doesn't believe it. It seemed like Martha would be able to piece that together.
I like the way it played out.
Yeah, I do too.
I think in her mind, he's still a patient of the hospital that was a patient when all this went down. And
Because even at the end of that very scene, she's like,
yeah.
Mr. Smith will get you out of this.
That's
She's
true.
still in the
calling
authority
him
That's
role.
true.
Smith.
She's
And
still in the
even
authority role.
As she says, I'll go check on Mr. Stoker, see if he knows anything. She gives the doctor this look. And to me, the look was a look of like, I'm not so sure this guy is going to be the one who's going to save us. Especially since he's over there like fiddling with the computer.
I think it's the computers that he's working on. He says, oh, I'm trying to use my sonic screwdriver. And she goes, well, if you're not going to tell me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Martha's picking up things, but it's a lot to pick up. And, she now has final confirmation that this guy's an alien.
And for
Piece.
writing in comedic
'cause it's
reasons,
It was a
it's
good comedic timing.
It's
on
so
that.
good.
It was
Yeah.
done well on that.
It's just really
Much
done
better
well.
than a flashback.
But I did
yeah,
like
that
when
was
they
good.
ran together and he goes, oh, I found the backup. Well, I found the alien. What? It's like she's already stepped ahead of the doctor
Yeah.
with that one.
We don't need that information anymore. I'm way past it. The doctor finds Miss Finnegan in the MRI room, altering the machine. He pretends to be human and babbles about space rhinos until she instructs her drone to hold him. She continues to enhance the machine so it will send out a huge pulse, destroying the brains of every living thing on the moon, along with the part of the Earth that happens to be facing the moon at the time. She will stay safe in this room and then escape in a Judoon ship. The doctor tells Miss Finnegan that the head rhino said something about intensifying their scans since they did not find the non-human. Needing more human blood to hide again, she begins to drink from the doctor.
It's another great example of the doctor using words as his weapon to
Yeah.
extrapolate information.
I
and
love
get,
that he pretends to be
yeah,
human.
It's like a Columbo moment.
Like he doesn't even have his sonic screwdriver
Right.
at this point, which isn't even really a weapon.
Or his shoes.
It doesn't have shoes. He's,
It's great
really cool.
exposition, but like flipped on its head is that he's, kind of interrogating her without her knowing.
And then comes up with an idea to solve everything.
An idea that's solely based on him being an alien. So it kind of keeps you in the sci-fi world.
Yeah.
And great acting by Tennant.
by both.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely by both.
Oh, that slag there. I thought he did wonderfully.
He was the best.
And then when it flips again, when Miss Finnegan realizes that he's putting on a disguise, her line is great, laughing at the darkness.
Laughing on purpose at the darkness.
Yeah, I love that line.
I don't know if you meant it, but I kind of heard you say when she figures out that the doctor's lying.
Yeah.
That's how I read what you just said.
That's what I
She
read.
doesn't.
That's not what I meant.
Right.
That's
Okay,
what
so
heard,
now
and
I
that's
get
what
it.
threw
Gotcha,
me
gotcha.
off.
Yeah, it's like, wait, when does she say that? But now she's talking to this human
Yes.
who's laughing in the face of his death. Yeah, it's a great line.
But for the doctor, which is odd, is his playing human was playing dumb.
Yeah,
That was just sort of, really? After all we've talked about, after all this time of each person is unique and individual and they have something to offer, and you're playing dumb?
because he's playing off of her.
Her
She thinks
idea
humans are
of
dumb.
It
human.
was also the
Yeah.
fastest way to get information, I think.
He's really being the most harmless that he could possibly be, And I mean, he's just a postman. That's why he has bunions. That's why he doesn't have shoes on. It's brilliant.
That was, I thought, funny because I don't think he thought it through in the way
No.
that he acted it. It
Yeah.
was like, I was just supposed to. That's the news. That's the reason
Yeah.
why I said that.
Yeah.
That I thought was
cover
kind of
myself.
good.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't think it works. It goes
Yeah.
with the story.
And his acting sells it completely.
There was one moment, I can't remember what it was in this show, he says something and his Scottish accent totally came out.
Yes. They're named the Judoon because apparently that's a difficult sound for Scottish people. The oon is difficult for Scottish people to say.
so they
And
did it
so
on
Russell
purpose?
couldn't resist doing Judoon, Platoon on the moon to make Tennant say that. So that's why they're named the Judoon.
Yeah, the Scottish accent makes it difficult to pronounce the syllable oon in an English accent.
But even the way he says it, he's just like a Judoon, Platoon on the moon.
That's how he says the ood, too.
Yeah.
It's like when they try and do an American accent with the R's, like Xander. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why everything
Oh,
is
gosh.
like an O sound, like bazoolium. He's always doing O's.
That's right. And he always says it like that, too.
Yeah. Like later on when he repeats the translating like algorithm, like the Judoon are doing, bro, crow, row, fro.
Right.
He does that again, like very enunciated.
Yes, he does. Yeah. And Alburn, you had mentioned earlier that you didn't like the fact that the sonic screwdriver had the power to turn the X-ray machine and kill somebody. Well, in this scene, she's taking a normal MRI machine and flipping a couple switches and plugging things in, and suddenly it's powerful enough to kill everything within 280,000 miles. Now that's when it's like, okay, the tone of this episode is for kids.
Yeah.
Because kids would love that.
Martha blocks the Judoon's path and tells them she knows the identity of the alien. They scan her and detect traces of non-human. They scan her again and identify her as human with traces of non-human around her face. They continue heading to the MRI room and Martha follows. As they walk in, the slave drones drop the doctor. The Judoon scan shows him as alien and they declare him dead. Martha says Miss Finnegan is the alien, but Miss Finnegan shows them the X mark on her hand, saying she has been cleared. Martha realizes that Miss Finnegan drank the doctor's blood, so she grabs a Judoon scanner. She scans Miss Finnegan, and the Judoon identify her as the alien criminal they were seeking. She activates the MRI right before they shoot and disintegrate her. With their job done and the MRI priming to explode, the Judoon decide to leave.
I like it that the plasmavore killed Shirley Temple. Little golden locks with a simpering voice.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Princess or royalty or something.
Padraville Regency 9.
Thanks again,
The
Russell.
little child princess. Just showing again the Judoon are not there to protect and to serve. They're not the idea of what we have of police.
And they're not the smartest.
It's going
creatures.
off. We're done. We got our
Yeah.
Our objective has been achieved.
Yeah.
Correct.
And they
See ya.
find a dead alien body, and to them, that's it. They're done.
It's like there's a certain checklist for us to get paid.
Yeah.
We meet
Yeah.
that checklist.
Mission
Well, then they
accomplished.
found 2, but then they're both dead.
Yeah, but when they find 2, they scan her more, and they realize then that she's the plasmavore.
Right.
So then they're like, "Oh, you're the one who killed
Right.
the little girl." So
I missed that. I didn't know that they scanned the doctor and found that he was an alien. I thought they just scanned him and they said he's dead.
It's more implied than stated. Again, the writing's not the strongest episode for
Yeah.
writing.
And again, going to the Christ metaphor, the doctor does give up his life and sacrifices himself to save humanity in this case.
and there's drinking of blood.
There you go.
Well, the other thing too is she turns an MRI into something that can kill forever, but she's gonna be safe in this room.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
what's-
right.
Yeah.
What's keeping her safe? I don't
There's
know.
also
The lead lined walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's plenty of lead line walls and
Yeah. Everybody on Earth is just like, why is everybody dead?
and she activates the machine by plugging in the red wire. And so she has the 2 wires and she goes, okay, now I'm going for it. And she just takes the 2 big plugs, clicks them together, and it starts up.
Sorry, I just had the vision of why is everybody dead? Burgess Meredith going, time enough at last.
there was time. Because he's the penguin.
Yes, I got you. Penguins can't read.
Where's this going?
Martha performs CPR on the doctor's 2 hearts and nearly passes out from the lack of air remaining in the hospital. The revived doctor forces himself over to the control area, and since his sonic is broken, he takes a page out of Mickey's playbook and unplugs the machine. He then carries an unconscious Martha to the window and watches the Judoon ships leave. He is begging the Judoon to send them back to Earth. At the last moment, it begins to rain, and the hospital is transported back to Earth. EMTs help those in the hospital, and Martha sees the doctor leave.
Why carry Martha?
Because it's really dramatic
It's
looking.
the look.
For the
There's
iconic
no reason.
image.
For the iconic
Yep, that's
image.
it.
That's what I don't like about it. There's no reason.
There is no reason for him to do
it.
it.
all is just a visual look that they're trying
Yep.
to go for.
But he
so
needed
there's
to
no
get
real
to
motivation.
the window. He needed to get to the window. Would you just want him to leave Martha?
But he didn't even
Yeah.
need to get to the window.
Could have got to a different
Yeah.
window.
So he could watch the Judoon leave and then see if they were.
There's
To do
nothing.
what?
There's no reason. He's like, oh please, 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 please. He's doing
He
a
could be
Donna.
doing that in the MRI room,
But
going,
then he
"Come
wouldn't.
on, send
he
us
wouldn't
back."
see the rain.
Well, we wouldn't see him seeing the rain. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
for dramatic purposes, and to me, it works just fine. I like the image of him carrying her out.
Or put her on a bed.
A gurney.
Something.
A gurney.
So
But it's like he doesn't need to carry her to the window. It is a look and it's a dramatic look. It's just there's no real reason for it other than the filmmaking process of the dramatic look.
if we're going with Eugene's, the doctor is a Christ character sacrificing himself, and then in the end where he's carrying her, that is also a religious symbol, like the Pietà.
That's what I was thinking.
That's her
Yes.
arm is hanging down,
Yes.
exactly like the Michelangelo's Pietà. So he's not the
He's married.
like he's not the one who sacrificed himself. She is.
Well, she did in that case.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
she gave
why
everything
they're
she
doing
could to
those
get him
religious
going.
symbols. So
Okay.
going to
Yeah,
that.
she gave him her last breath.
I also had the
Yes.
same notes.
So then my other thing was not to do anything with religion. Was if the doctor's heart stopped, why didn't he regenerate? That's just a logical idea.
They
for
mentioned
me
that in the
I-
commentary that regeneration is a choice. So in that moment, the doctor chose not to regenerate.
Because he didn't want to give it away.
Yeah, and this was in Russell and David Tennant are on the commentary for this episode.
Oh, I got to listen to that. I've never
He didn't
listened
want
to
to
this
give
one.
what away.
Let her know that he's not human, and that what sucking his blood won't save her. She would have then hid more.
I always thought it was, I'm not quite dead yet.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. Because if he's not dead yet, then if he were really, really dead, like regeneration-y dead, then CPR wouldn't do anything.
Okay, well, how long do you think he was out?
Not long.
Because it takes 2 minutes to have permanent brain damage.
If you have one heart.
For humans.
For humans.
Gallifreyans.
But still, I felt like it was just way too long that he
I
was
agree with
just
you.
passed out.
No.
But
And
I'm
then-
fine with it. With the rest of this episode, that's very low on my totem pole.
She wasn't finished when
He's
they
Time
came in
Lord.
and they dropped him.
That's true.
But
She
he's
wasn't finished.
dead. It was.
It
could be they scanned the one heart and didn't realize the second.
Only one of his hearts.
Yeah.
But she listened and it's like, oh, 2 hearts, and she had to do CPR on both.
Well, she remembered the 2 hearts.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't needed, but at least it was smart of her to remember that he has 2 hearts, so she went to both sides. So I like
think
that.
it was needed.
And that's more of Martha.
And that's how
dramatic.
I see it. I see it more as elevating Martha as a character.
Yeah.
That she's smart enough to realize the 2 hearts.
Yeah. And he's just not dead yet.
Again,
He's
I
only
don't think the
mostly
writing
dead.
on this was as
mostly
thought out
Mostly
as some
dead.
others.
He's just
Mostly dead.
slightly alive.
Mostly dead.
Yeah.
There's page
And the
time
Judoon-
and then
I mean-
there's screen time.
The Judoon aren't the...
True love.
The Judoon are pretty, thick-headed, so...
That's what brought him back. True love.
I thought it was 2 blade.
And I do like that you mentioned the Pieta, but to me it's not the Pieta. It's Superman holding the dead body of Supergirl on the Crisis on Infinite Earths #8.
Which is
Which is
also
from
Based on the Pieta. I know, I'm not stupid, but that's what I think of.
So God
It's just
is
so
a
well
woman.
done.
But that's a great piece of art.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing.
If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's very beautiful.
Get some culture in you.
There's a lot of
That was,
Italy.
that was in our church. We had a Pieta in St. James.
there's a lot of like distortions to that because technically she wouldn't be big enough to hold him in her lap, so she's a lot bigger in different places than a normal
Heretic.
woman would be.
Later that night, at her brother's disastrous birthday party, Martha sees the doctor again. Since she saved his life, he thought he would repay her with 1 trip in the TARDIS. He says it is a time machine, but she doesn't believe him. He leaves in the TARDIS and goes back to the morning when he takes off his tie in front of her earlier self. She believes him and agrees to go on 1 quick trip in the TARDIS.
So here it again, Martha needs proof.
Martha the skeptic. I'm gonna start calling her that.
She won't, after everything they've gone through, 2 hearts, him being an alien,
On the moon.
Another
time travel,
religious
too
reference.
much. Time travel, too much. No, I need proof for everything that we're doing.
I think she's just using that as an excuse. It seemed like she was much more excited and was just sort of feigning excitement by being skeptical.
Sorry, don't get me wrong. I like that. I like Martha being skeptical and not believing everything she's hearing. And when he does come back and his tie is off, triggers her memory right away, and then she gets it. She puts the 2 to 2 together. So I like that about Martha.
I also like
But
how she says...
will not accept anything at the face value. She needs the proof of it.
I also like how she says, well, why didn't you just tell me not to go to work? And he's
Right.
like, I can't cross over in people's timelines unless it's cheap
For a
tricks.
cheap trick.
I like that line.
It's like the Prime Directive, except for cheap chicks.
Yeah. It's until it's in the script.
But
We
it's
also
also
didn't-
true because
No, it is
everything
true,
would have been messed
Yeah,
up.
that's
We
right.
don't know what would happen if Martha was not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said that he was there to just look at something instead of to stop the plasmavore, because he didn't know she was there.
Yeah. Yeah. If Martha wasn't in the hospital,
He would have died.
oh, yeah, he would have. Yeah. 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 As we found out. Yeah.
She's a skeptic because she's the scientist, as a physician.
She's
she needs
Scully.
to-
Yep, the logic mind.
But I don't, maybe it's just me. I think skeptic is too hard a word. It's not skeptical just to want evidence of something. It's not so much skepticism, just
No, that's
her manner.
which I like about Martha. And it's, she doesn't continue doubting when she gets the proof.
Right.
She's on board each and every time.
Exactly.
Going, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
it. This is it now, where I'm
And
at.
it is
She's
a doubt.
agnostic.
So it is somewhat, it's like we want another
No, it's just
synonym for it.
I think it's a lever searching attitude.
Yeah, scientific. She has a
Yes.
scientific method,
Right.
and she's
So for me, just to hear the word skeptic to me was just a little, in my own personal thing,
It's
a little
almost
too
like,
hard.
oh, really? Well, I want to see.
Yes.
No, but I would say she's just, she has a scientific method. She's following
Right.
it. She has a question, she wants it answered, and it's either proof or it's fact or it's just a theory.
We also did miss that point. Well, we didn't talk about how when the EMTs were helping everybody and people were being interviewed, the doctor or the intern,
Oliver Morgenstern.
yeah, where he just was like taking credit and I said no and I said no, and by the way, Mr. Saxon is right. We are not alone in the universe. And it's like, well, we don't need Mr. Saxon to tell us. We saw it with our own eyes, but whatever.
They threw it in there.
They threw in the
That's
Mr.
the-
Saxon.
Who is Mr. Saxon?
Well,
who indeed?
He could command the army.
It's the big mystery for season 3. So that's all we know. It's kind of like Torchwood for season 2, but it's
We remember though we saw the newspaper headline in Love and Monsters that
our
says
first
Saxon
one.
is rising in the polls.
And then
Oh, is that when we first saw it?
first one.
right.
And then Runaway Bride.
Orders for Mr. Saxon to fire, so
From
they
the
fire.
tank.
And now
There's
Mr.
2.
Saxon says we're not alone in the universe
And the
votes
poster.
Saxon.
Yeah.
So it's just the Bad Wolf in season 1, Torchwood in season 2. This is starting season 3, so we don't want to spoil it.
And it was in Torchwood season 1.
We were also discussing earlier with Runaway Bride about people's reaction to the interior of the TARDIS. I like Martha's. I like the way they did Martha's, where we don't see her saying it's bigger on the inside. She's off screen, but we see the Doctor mouthing along with her, it's bigger on the inside. Is it? Really? I'd like that.
And the continuity between the 2 locations from the exterior to the interior set is amazing. It's seamless.
That's
Yes,
right.
isn't it?
It's amazing.
Because I already buy the TARDIS, no problem.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, wow, that was 2 different locations.
But production-wise, they had to do 2 locations.
I don't get it.
The sets are in 2 different locations.
So
the
she
set where
walks
she's
in.
walking into the TARDIS
you
and
mean
the actual
from
inside the
looking
TARDIS.
outside
Yes.
to inside.
They're
Oh.
2 different days.
Seamless.
So Anne Reed, she's the one that played the Plasmavore, Miss Finnegan. She appeared in a classic Who serial. She was.
Maybe that's what I recognized her from.
I don't think you did. She was Nurse Crane in The Curse of Fenric in 1989 with Sylvester McCoy, and so she played a similar character, Hermivorous, and now she plays the Plasmavore. Both are like a variation on a vampire. So I think that's cool that they brought
Oh,
it back.
she's typecast.
The Doctor makes real-world references other than the Benjamin Franklin reference he does in the beginning. He says that once he had a laser spanner, which was stolen by Emily Pankhurst. He's referring to Emily Pankhurst, who is founder of the 20th century British suffragette movement.
Oh, I know. I've heard of her.
Yeah.
What does she
Yeah.
need a laser spanner for?
We don't know.
And the spanner is a wrench.
What did he say about her? She was a
Cheeky woman.
cheeky woman? Yeah. Boy, they
didn't know what
did
spanner
terrible things to her.
Real quick, I don't know how to pronounce the actress playing Tish, Martha's sister, but she's a great actress. We've seen her.
We have seen her more in other Doctor Who's?
No.
Oh.
We've seen her in Black Mirror. She plays Plumette in the new Beauty and the Beast, which is out now.
Oh.
And also she's upcoming for Wrinkle in Time. So you'll see her some more.
She's in Beauty and the Beast?
Plumette,
The TV
voice,
show.
the voice. No.
No.
Beauty and the Beast, the live action one that just came out.
The dressed, the
Wow, I
feather
did
duster.
not recognize her at all from all that promotional material. But the Wrinkle in Time, I've seen pictures going, she looks really familiar,
Yeah,
but
so
that's
that's who it
what
is.
Good for her.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to pronounce her name either.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
You're a great actress.
Who is this episode good for? Meaning, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I didn't like this episode all that much. I'm going to go for, you have to be a fan for this one. I don't think it's a good way to, I don't know. Martha was a good introduction, but I think she has a lot better episodes. Unless you're 14 or under, then I could recommend it for you and even introduce it to you if you're a kid, because I think you'll like it a lot. But if you're introduced into an adult, it's definitely not a 1 because I don't want new people to this introduction. So I'll stay with 3.
Fan?
Right.
I really enjoy this episode. I agree with Russell that it's a fresh start, that we don't really, other than one mention of Rose, we don't really have any other ties to the rest of the preceding episodes or seasons. I really like this episode. I like the Doctor in this episode. I think everyone would like this episode.
I'm going to agree with Frank and go with 3, just because it is not the strongest episode. I think we are going to get some stronger Martha episodes coming up. Production values, it's also not the strongest. And I would hate to introduce somebody to Doctor Who with the magic marker squeaking on people's hands. And not the worst episode. Like, I don't think people should shy away from it. But yeah, it's hard for me to recommend it to a new Who viewer.
I say 2. I want to say 1, but I think there's too many things that if someone's even the least bit skeptical, they may be like, nah, it's like even the family stuff and Martha's father's girlfriend, like there's just a couple too many things that may turn someone off TV wise, not Doctor Who wise. I think all the Doctor Who stuff is a one. I think all of the introductions to the companions are good for a new viewer. But this one, I think it's a little too uneven because of the tone and things like that. So I'm going to say casual.
So I don't hate this episode, but I also don't love this episode. And I wish there was like a category in the middle where it's like you can go either way. It's kind of like, meh.
We've already had a category 5 for you. So.
It's like the meh
2.5
episode. 2.5 or
The meh.
the meh category, or rather
I would
not
say a meh is 3.
So yeah, I would have to say 3 because it's like it doesn't give me anything that I'm excited about. Like in previous episodes, I would have an adverse reaction or a joyous reaction, but this one is just kind of like, I don't care. Whatever.
Fan?
Yes.
I would. I think it is a fresh start for this series. So you're being introduced to the Doctor, you're being introduced to the TARDIS, you're being, through Martha's eyes, you're being introduced to Martha. She's a good, strong companion. I like the Judoon. I think they're really fun. It's a good little story, and it does kind of set up for a good season to come. This is good for everyone, including Cool. Thank you, Andrew.
One quick thing. Nicholas Briggs does a voice of the Judoon captain, so I like that he's brought back. He does all those voices.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What other ones does he do?
The Dalek and the Cyberman.
Yep.
For me, I like this episode. I would classify it for a new Who viewer. I think it reboots, not necessarily reboots, but it does introduce you again and a new viewer to things that are, very Doctor Who-y. It sets the tone is fine with me because it shows the gamut of what Doctor Who can be, from comedy, drama, and just everything that's there. And we get introduced to a great companion. I think Martha is a strong companion. She's smart, she's capable, and I think she's pretty too. So I think we get that. Oh, and we get the first time for the blue suit. So that's why this episode is a new Who category for me. Those are our thoughts.
What do you think about this episode? Did you like it? Do you like that it's a new start for the series? What did you think about the tone? Do you think that the swift execution of the bystander fit the tone of the episode, or do you think it just kind of stood out and would have been best on the cutting room floor? Let us know.
Email us at whonewpodcast@gmail.com. So that wraps up Smith and Jones. Join us next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook
At The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by our very own Auburn.
Find me at auburnbinkley.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcasts.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whonewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whonewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
the longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Category. Who is this?
I understand what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
well, you can't put him at the end anyway.
Hold on,
You have to be
sorry.
first.
No.